Okay, everything should be live right now. Okay, just got some things popping up on my computer that shouldn't be there. Not in a bad way, of course, but in a way that is rather distracting and frustrating. But there we go, and I think the stream health says it's okay. So yeah, we are a go. I've got the chat up and I've got all the stream health stuff going. So I'm going to talk a little bit of preamble before we actually get going, because I like to talk preamble. And I'm just going to see, this is the bit of the stream that no one's in for anyway, so I can make mistakes. But I've got music on, it was a bit loud. Obviously, you can tell by the title of this video, what is the Horus Heresy, another episode, but this one's a live little chat, and I'm hoping that it's something I can make monthly, or similar to monthly, with guests and stuff. If you've got specific questions that I feel I can't answer, then I can get someone in and they can answer it, which would be really cool, I think. So that's the plan anyway, is to do this on the regular. I don't know how regular, like I said, probably monthly, as part of my What is the Horus Heresy series, so we can learn together. I've got my red books down here, as well as the 7th Ed rulebook. My psychic cards are over on the table there. They arrived today. Super excited about that. 99p off eBay, which was a bit of a steal. But yeah, I thought it'd be a really good medium for people to ask me questions and me to answer them, because, like I said, the Horus Heresy is basically what tabletop banter is now, and I think it's important that I connect with the people who aren't all about the Horus Heresy, and this is an opportunity for me to do so. And it's a chance for me to have one of those more relaxed sessions. So what I'll do is I'll actually start the questions in a couple of minutes. We've got one already from Wargamer Nick. So hello Wargamer Nick, how are you doing today? So yeah, like I said, I'll start answering the questions in a couple of minutes. Just give it a bit of time for the stream to do its due as it gets started and then we can work from there. But yeah, like I said, just an opportunity for us to talk about the Horus Heresy, fluff and gameplay. Fluff is something that's a bit work in progress for me. I've recently ploughed through 9 of the Horus Heresy books. So recently, that's since January, February time. And I've got the next 4 or 5 in the series, so plenty of reading to be getting on with, but I'm really enjoying them, so hopefully I can answer some fluff questions from my knowledge of it. Okay. Yeah, sorry. I just away with the fairies from over there. Normally you can edit that bit out, but being live, if I get away with the fairies, everyone sees. So, yeah, what have I been working on then? I'll talk about that for a brief moment. I've been working on my Iron Hands, as you may or may not have seen. I finally built up... I know he's not on his base, but that's because Harry forgot to bring him down. But I built up my Contemptor from Harry's Betrayal at Calth, and he is magnetized. Lovely. And they're nice and strong magnets, actually. I picked them up from the friendly local gaming store in Gosport. Yeah, so I've sorted that out, and I've also magnetized 2 Carey's Assault cannon patterns on the Iron Hand specific one. It does make me a bad person, but I feel like I need that sort of extra firepower. It looks really Iron Handsy as well, so I feel like I can justify it, but yeah, we'll see. I probably won't take it to all the friendly games. Probably more with that loadout, Chain Fist, 1 Carey's Assault Cannon, because 1's good enough. Well, Multi-Melter on there, but I'll probably give him the Assault Cannon, because 1's good enough at the end of the day. In terms of other stuff, I am working on a really cool, unique little Praetor for my Iron Hands, who's going to have his whole backstory. I'm going to write a little short story for it. I've started already, to be honest. And a future episode will be on forging a narrative, and I'm looking forward to that, has to be said. So without further ado, let's answer this question, and I feel like I could probably go on for a while about this question, but Wargamer Nick has asked how similar, or what's it like compared to 40k, 30k that is, and how similar is it? Well, that is a good question, and it's very different now, because at the moment this is the rulebook. It's the old 7th edition rulebook. So I'll talk about this question as if you're referring to 8th edition, because, well, I assume it's been out for a while now, so I think people are aware that it's a thing. So it's very different. It's got all the 7th edition core rules, and then there's a couple of other books of Legion specific stuff, similar to your 40k codices. So the actual gameplay is 7th edition core rules with minor changes, of which they will be released in a book in the future. I think that's supposed to be Christmas time, from what I've heard on the street, and I hope so, because I'd like to have a red book specifically with the rules in, because I like the red books. The quality is just on another level, and it would show me they're committed to 7th ed for now. Well, I know they are anyway, but that would just be really cool. So the similarities are in the sense that it's set in the same, well, I'll say universe. It's set in the same universe, 10,000 years apart, basically, if the name wasn't too obvious. And the Horus Heresy is narrative / game-wise, as in the way it plays as a narrative game. The Horus Heresy is that turning point where chaos really became known to man again, I suppose. And you've got more legions versus legions. All of the Xenos stuff isn't really categorized, because it doesn't play a massive role in the story of the Horus Heresy. I won't say that. Okay, that's not quite true. It doesn't play a front and center role. It does play a big role because you've got the Cabal, who kind of dictate what the Alpha Legion do, and try and steer humans away from chaos. Well, I mean, they try and make humans extinct, I guess, in that way. But either way, it's more about that Legion versus Legion treachery, and stuff like that. And I suppose that's another difference between 40k and 30k is legions and chapters. But I'll go on to that in a minute. So that's the initial difference. In terms of rules, like I said, 7th versus 8th edition, they're totally different rule sets now. And then you've got the style of play. So the style of play is very much more narrative based, because the story is so deep and so eloquent compared to the 40k fluff. I've read a few 40k books, and they have nothing on the Horus Heresy books, and the way that those books bring out sort of all the emotions. I mean, Horus Heresy for me is chasms ahead of 40k in terms of fluff. Especially now, I think with 8th edition, personally, I've come off the boil because I've got no real interesting fluff to get me back into it. Whereas the Horus Heresy, like I say, I've been reading books and books, and I'm loving it. So that narrative gameplay means you build your army slightly differently. It means the units work slightly differently. For example, a Space Marine, they have their own chapter tactics and things like that, but they play differently if you follow a narrative theme. For example, Iron Hands got my breaches, working on them, but for my word bearers, you wouldn't see me put a breacher in a word bearers army because I like to play to the narrative, and in my eyes, word bearers are big tactical squads. Not that suits them better. Works the same with characters. So another good example with characters would be your Praetors. So the Praetor is like the captain, if you like, or the chapter master sort of thing of the Horus Heresy. And if I've got a Praetor for my Iron Hands, I can give him specific upgrades for the Iron Hands. Like he can become an Iron Father, which basically means he's like a turbo tech marine, if you like. Or I could give him the bog standard loadouts, but even in my loadouts, I'd be different. So Iron Hands, they're kind of thunder hammers. That's their weapon of choice in my mind. You take Ferrus Manus with Forge Breaker, the massive hammer. So thunder hammers on Praetors, definitely for the fluff. You then look at something like Emperor's Children, for example, and you look at the likes of Dark Angels. Their bladesmanship is what they are renowned for. So to not give them a blade of any kind, whether that be a Charnable Saber or a Power Sword or a Paragon Blade, if they're that high in rank, to not give them one of those would kind of seem a little bit off. And so, yeah, the way you build your armies is very different in that respect. Personally, anyway, my experiences of 40k don't tend towards narrative games, and in pickup games in 40k, no one ever takes a narrative list. Not really, not that I've played against anyway. And I don't see 8th edition changing that much. I think it's, if anything, it's skewing it more that way with sort of a lot of the taken away of the shiny fluff. But that's sort of the main gameplay in terms of like the bigger picture. Obviously there are lots and lots of little differences, and I could probably talk for the entire hour that I'm hoping to do this show on that. But in terms of just how it feels to play, compared to 8th, it's a lot more in depth, and it's, personally speaking, a hell of a lot more immersive. I've played a couple of games of 8th edition, and I felt like I wasn't there. I felt like I was playing a board game, or playing, I don't know, I'm playing a game. I'm not investing in a game. I'm not investing in setting out a story on the tabletop. I feel like everything I do is a move in a game, not a chapter in a book or a paragraph in a book, for example. Whereas with the Horus Heresy, every advance with a troop unit, it feels so much more, because if you've read the books and you're invested in this game, it's not cheap to be invested in it. You've got to pour your heart and soul into your legion, and in doing so, it means that much more to you. So you kind of feel like you're in it. You kind of feel like you're in the game, especially because it's a slightly more infantry heavy, and there's a hell of a lot less spam and cheese. I mean, there is it around, but you'll find that local metas tend to be less into it, and that stuff is reserved purely for tournament play. The word phosphex springs to mind, and a lot of people don't enjoy playing against it, and a lot of people don't play with it because it doesn't make for fun games. And I mean, that's maybe that's just my personal opinion. I like narrative games over hardcore win at all cost stuff, and I think Horus Heresy really plays into that specific part of the wargaming group. It's more about the story and about forging a narrative than it is about kicking your opponent square in the crotch repeatedly. So you've asked another question, Wargamer Nick, and he has asked, are they updating it to 8th edition, or are they keeping it at 7th with the Horus Heresy? That's a good question. From what I've heard at the moment, for the foreseeable future, it's going to be 7th. They're bringing out an updated red book, so it'll be in this style here. Now, this is the Legion Astartes Age of Darkness army list, so it's what you need if you're playing the Legion Astartes, the Space Marines. So they're bringing out one of these, but for a core rulebook, which will be really exciting. So I'll have the 7th stuff in with a few changes here and there to make it fit 30k a bit better. It used to have its own sort of FAQ, but I don't think that's the case so much. Some of the things they reverted back to 7th stuff, but I believe for the next few years, or next couple of years at least, it's going to be staying at 7th edition. My personal opinion, or what I believe will be happening, is that they'll wait until all the kinks are out of 8th edition, and when 8th becomes 9th, Heresy will become 9th, and it'll just skip 8th out entirely. I like the way it's done at the moment. Now, there's a lot of people obviously who are panicking about Heresy becoming 8th because of all the books that have come out, but they've already scheduled a book, book 8, which I believe is going to be called Angelus. That's already been half written, mostly written, from what I've heard. So there's no way in hell they're gonna, have this mostly written, like 80-60 quid book or whatever it is, sitting around. They may have even printed it and just be waiting to release it, to be fair. But there's no way they're going to have gone through all that effort just to change the rules on it. I think that, yeah, it would be foolish to do so. And I mean, they've also recently brought out book 7. I say recently brought out book 7 in the form of Inferno. So again, someone who's just gone out and bought that, the 60-80 quid investment or whatever it might be, including postage, that investment is too high to suddenly turn around and say you can't use that anymore. With a 40k codex, 35 quid, not too bad, to be honest. I mean, it's not great, but you're paying twice that for one book from Forge World. So I don't think they just scrap it. I firmly believe they're slightly better at interacting with their clientele, I think, than Games Workshop. But that's only because the clientele is that much smaller. This sort of group of people is that much smaller. But I for one hope it stays 7th. I really like the 7th edition rules. 8th edition doesn't satisfy what I want from a war game, and I feel like if they trimmed this down to the level of the Space Marine Codex at the moment for 8th edition, I'd probably be stop playing, to be fair, because that new codex seems a bit shit, to put it candidly. Yeah, so those are my thoughts anyway. I don't know if we'll know for certain until they make a full-on announcement, but they're keeping a bit of their powder dry for now, which makes sense, to be fair. And And that's nice to hear that you enjoy the fluff, by the way, Wargaming Nick. So, yep, like I say, anyone else who's watching, pop questions in. Oh, here we go. Do they have Xenos rules for orcs and stuff like that? So, orcs, no. They're not in the they are in the Horus Heresy timeline, but they're not so potent in this particular slice of fluff in which the Horus Heresy is expanding in. So obviously you had, oh Christ, Ullanor, the Ullanor campaign, which was massive for orcs versus the legions, and obviously the Emperor himself was there fighting side by side with Horus the last time they fought together, and yeah, so there's no specific rules at the moment. I mean, orcs are the kind of army that I would feel alright playing against if it was, like, again, narrative themed. So if someone took out their 7th edition Orc Codex, not renowned for being the toughest, and played it up against some Legion stuff, that would be an okay matchup. You know, a tournament Eldar list is going to wreck a Heresy list every time, but the kinds of lists that you can make with orcs, as long as it's fun, that will be a nice square matchup. So yeah, maybe that's a good way of still playing 7th Ed orcs, but again, it's down to a player's discretion. And the guard, do guard have special rules? They do, yes. It's called the Imperial Militia, or Imperial Cults and Militia. So obviously you've got the good guys and the bad guys there with the Cults and Militia, and their rule set is 100 times more interesting than the 7th Ed, and probably better than the new Guard Codex when it does come out, because you've got so many cool little things you can do. So you take this leader, whose name escapes me right now. Oh, he's a Lord Marshal, I think. And you can just give him the weirdest shit, but it's so cool. So you can, like, basically mean that, like, Levy Militia gain rending and stuff like that. They become crazed because they're chaotic. Or you can give everyone sort of leadership buffs. Or you can be a lost planet. So a legion's come down and it's trying to get you back into compliance, and you've got all this old school technology from yesteryear, before the old knight and all that stuff. And it's yeah, the scope for fun in the new Imperial Militia stuff is so high. Also, you've got the Solar Auxilia, who are like this, like, pumped up, sort of juiced up guard, and they're another cool option. I sort of see that as a sub faction. I don't think it is exactly, but again, you can play that traitor or loyalist, and they have some really cool special rules. They can take dedicated transports with the Demolisher cannon from the Vindicator on them. I think that's really cool. So, very expensive though. Pound for pound, the most expensive way to play Heresy is with Solar Auxilia. I believe, anyway, from what I've seen. So, Finch says, what is my favourite Legion for the Horus Heresy? Well, that's a really tough question. I think they've all got soft spots with me. To be fair, I like most of the legions. There are very few I dislike. Those are limited to the Emperor's Children, too many tentacles and sexual endeavours between Astartes, not for me. And I think I'm not too keen on the Sons of Horus. I love the Lunar Wolves before they go bad, but you get to the book 3 and you're just like, man, Horus is a massive dick. And that's hard to get past, because I love Garvey or Loken, and I love that in that first book. And the Lunar Wolves in there, I was all about the Lunar Wolves. I was so excited. And then I kind of started to hate them. But I think you're meant to, obviously, because they're treacherous. They become the Sons of Horus and they become treacherous. And that's fantastic. Like, you're meant to dislike them. But I've got to say, most of the Legion I really like. And the one I was never going to do, and may potentially be a project in the future of mine, was Alpha Legion. And I didn't like the Alpha Legion until I read the book Legion. And the book Legion it's an absolute killer. I think it's book 7 in the Horus Heresy, but it's such a gold story, and it's not linked with the first 5, so I would highly recommend going and reading that one. So at the moment, my favourite Legion... Christ. Well, I just read a Raven Guard book, so... yeah, I kind of... I kind of like the Raven Guard at the moment. Yeah, and I like their story. I like how they get massacred at Istvan 5. and then they return home to Deliverance, and all the stuff with Korax and all the gene experimentation. I find that fascinating. So yeah, I'd say Raven Guard probably right up there, along with the Iron Hands at the moment. And the Word Bearers are the first Legion I collected, and the ones I'm working on for a tournament in November, or a narrative event. And I love them too. I just love the, okay, Horus said he started it all, he led the Heresy, but did he? I personally think it was Erebus. I don't like him. Erebus is a knob, but I think it was Erebus and Corphoron who really started the Heresy. And that was just, it's a cracker. So those are probably my favourites. I don't like the Emperor's Children so much. Next question is from FX Odious. Let's just scroll up. I know nothing about how to play the Horus Heresy. Is it rather simple to play, or is it more complicated than regular 40k? Okay, that's a good question. So, the Horus Heresy compared to 8th edition is more complicated. I think that's probably the easiest way of putting it. Don't get me wrong, there are elements of it that I find very easy, because I've memorised it from playing it from 7th ed. So, like, all the to wound to hit charts, not a problem, I just memorise them. It's not difficult for me anymore. Whereas I've always got to double check stuff. Well, it's very similar, but there are things I've got to check in 8th edition when I play 8th edition games that, because I haven't played as much, I just don't know. So, but for 7th ed, because I drilled it into my head in 7th ed, I know a lot of the things that are perhaps the more complicated areas. Compared to 7th edition 40k and 30k, the Horus Heresy is significantly more streamlined, in my opinion, because there are 18 armies out there, of which they all go off the same core set of rules. Every legion has the same core, and then things that they change about that core and things that they add. So special units, special rules, but it's all within that core. And then you've got the likes of the Imperial Cults and Militia, in which they have that same principle. There are lots of scopes for it inside the Militia, and Auxiliary in some case, but they're also much easier stat line wise. So you haven't got to remember the leadership of that Eldar chap over there and the Orcs on the table over there and Tau. You don't even have to think about any of those things, because it's a lot more streamlined, but it's so deep, there's so much depth inside each of the sub-factions that you're not found wanting more from it beyond what they've given already, which is a great place to be, I think. So if you're used to 7th edition, then I would say Horus Heresy is easier, less complicated, less clutter. If you're used to 8th edition, you will have to learn a new rule set that's slightly more complicated. Next question. Oh, Finch replied to that one earlier on, so thank you very much for doing so. Wargamer Nick, what book are the Guard in? So I forget the name. It's something like Imperial Cults and Militia, Age of Darkness Army List book. If you have a look for that on the on the Forge World website, it should be on there. I think it's like 32 quid, something like that. FX Odia says lucky he prefers 7th. Well, that's fantastic. Finch says book 3 was amazing, heartbreaking though, and book 4 was filled with flip-flops. Book 4 is Fulgrim? No, Flight of the Eisenstein. That's right. I think that's right. Yeah, Flight of the Eisenstein. Yeah, I thought the Flight of the Eisenstein was good. It was just the first 3, because you're attached to Garviel Loken and that element of the Horus Heresy, it was a bit different. But I loved Garrow's story path. And I absolutely loved the fact that he took on, oh Christ, is it Grolgor? And I honestly, I thought that part of the story was fantastic. So Flight of the Eisenstein's got a soft spot for me. I thought that that Fulgrim, book 5, was a mixed bag. So the first 2/3 of the book took me more than 2 months to read. It was so slow, agonisingly difficult to read. And then the last third I read in 2 days, because it was so compelling. And that was, I suppose, good and bad. But since then I've kind of picked up my Heresy reading skills, and I'm just starting to fly through them now. Oh, hello Spotswood, how are you? I hope all is well, and you made it to the live stream, which is cool, because normally you aren't quite around when I am. Oh, you're more than welcome, Wargamer Nick. So Spotswood says, honestly don't know what the Horus Heresy is. Wow, well, the Horus Heresy is where to begin? It's part of the Warhammer 40k universe, set in the 31st millennia, and it is honestly the most gripping storyline I've ever gotten into. It takes you through the birth of the Astartes, the discovery of the Primarchs, the creation of the legions, the fall of Horus and him turning to chaos, and it sets up the entire narrative for the Warhammer 40,000 universe. You find out about the Chaos Gods. You find out, who's made of who, why each legion is the way they are, why, or how some legions are more stubborn than others and some are better with swords because that's what they have trained in for their entire lives. And you find out all this history that just adds to the story, and then it tees up Warhammer 40k sort of for its future. Obviously, there's a lot of space in between, 10,000 years or so, of which there are snippets of fluff. But yeah, God, Horus Heresy is absolutely stunning. Just like God level in terms of narrative. Finch says here he has a bunch of the novels queued up and he's only read up to the Eisenstein. Okay, that's cool. I have, done 1 to. I'm just finishing book 6. So technically, I've won. I've gone up to 1. I've gone up to book 7, and then I've jumped around a little bit. But I've got books 8, 9, and 10. Or is it 9, 10, 11? Or is it 8? I think I've got books 8 to 11. Yeah, I do. I've got books 8 to 11 still to read. Which would be cool. I think, anyway. I'm pretty excited by it. FX Odious. I had a look at the books to play Horus Heresy and I couldn't figure out which ones I would need. I'm a Blood Angels player in 40k, so would want to play them. Which books would I need to play? Okay, that's a really interesting question. FX Odious. So, the books you'll need to play. If you're going to play Horus Heresy, Blood Angels, it's a little bit more difficult because not all the legions have had all their stuff released. So it's in a bit of a mishmash of books at the moment. The things you will need, however, to start you off, obviously you'll need your trusty 7th edition rulebook. This has been through the wars, but got it with my Dark Vengeance, and it looks like it was possibly one of the first ones in print, given the fact that it's all warped and like got little rips here and there. But I do love it. And you'll also definitely need this book here. So it'll be titled The Legion Astartes, Age of Darkness Army List book. It's beautiful gilded edges, red book on the face of it, that was quite the squeak, and it's the one with this symbol on. And in here you have all the rules for basically creating the Legion. In it you've got rules for things like, let's just, you've got your organisation charts, of which there are many. You've got your allies matrix as well, of which there is a couple of pages of allies stuff in here. You've got your warlord traits. Other things in here are all the rules for the standard characters, like the equivalents of chapter masters, tactical marines, assault marines, support squads, and all the other big juicy tanks, fast attack units. It's all in here, and this is like the go-to. Now, had you said almost any other legion than Blood Angels, it would have been also very easy to point you in the next direction. And you may wish to get it anyway, because it does open up a lot of doors for creating a second Legion and such. But this is the other one you'll need, the Legion Astartes Age of Darkness Legions book with the Eye of Horus. And in here, it's got special rules for multiple legions, sorry. So it's got the Emperor's Children, Iron Warriors, Imperial Fist, Night Lords, Iron Hands, World Eaters, Ultramarines, Death Guard, Sons of Horus, Word Bearers, Salamanders, Alpha Legion, and the Raven Guard. All in here. Again, another squeak, that was nice. And in here you've got special units, special rules, and things much like that. So I'd recommend getting this anyway, given that it's A, a really nice book, and B, it's got a lot of good rules in there. But for the specific Blood Angel stuff, I'm not entirely sure which book they're in. So what I'll do is I will open up a little Google search, just to double check, because I know it's in one of the books, but it's just finding the right book. Let's see. So there are lots of black books in the Horus Heresy, of which most of it's fluff, a small slice of rules, and then the scenario. Look, book 6, Retribution, or it's IV. That's book 4. That's really bad. Ah, Callum, go home. Let me just double check. Yeah, book 4. Oh, that's bad. Roman numerals. Okay, so you'll need to go to book 4, Retribution, because that has all the Blood Angel specific stuff in there. So I hope that's of help for you. I 100% recommend getting into it. You'll want a second Legion before you know it, and then the third will come too. I'm already planning my third Legion because I have a problem. It would seem. Finch says Horus Heresy is a tabletop miniature war game where you play out battles with teeny tiny models you build and paint. Yes, very true, Finch. Teeny tiny models, indeed. Back to the livey bit here, so I can keep an eye on the stream health. I hope I haven't dropped too many frames. Always a danger. Okay, there we go. So, I'm going to pause from answering questions for a minute, and I'm going to talk about what I have coming up in terms of Horus Heresy content. And then we are going to get like in 5-10 minutes. If anyone has any questions, of course, write them down. I'll happily answer them. I love talking about the Horus Heresy, whether that be fluff or game stuff. But I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and it gives you a chance to ask questions and me a chance to talk about what's coming up. So in terms of content that is coming up for the Horus Heresy, I am moving house in a week. Just over a week, actually, because in a week I'm dressing up in leather. It's going to be very funny. I'm hoping the pictures don't make their way onto YouTube. So there's that on the horizon. But, I mean, in just over a week, I will be moving house back up to university in Swansea. And it's a new house. It's a basement flat. It's got big rooms. I'm the sole tenant. So I'm going to have a dedicated hobby space and a dedicated gaming space in my own house. Now, what this obviously means is that there are opportunities for new videos to come up more frequently. I'm going to have a permanent hobby set up, so I'll be able to permanently make hobby videos. I'll have a permanent gaming setup, or semi-permanent at the very least, in which I will be able to have guests come and play me. And I say guests, that could be friends, it could be people from the local club, it could be anyone who really wants to play a game. And we can do bat reps. Now, again, until I've got something that makes my battle reports unique, I'm not going to throw myself at them. But as soon as I find something that makes it very unique, that's the plan going forwards. But certainly over the coming months, you'll see more hobby updates, because I'm ever so lax with those. I've got so much stuff to show you, and it's literally, I'm just so dumb. I'm lazy, basically, when it comes to making those kind of videos. So there you go. Hopefully we can get something going soon enough. Oh, my stream health is slightly jumpy. I hope the audio's okay. Anyway, skip ahead to live broadcast. Maybe it's a little better now. Probably not. Sorry. I try and keep an eye on it and make sure I don't drop too many frames, but unfortunately we've had a couple of problems. So yeah, there should be some really cool Horus Heresy content coming up. I'm going to talk about things like Centurion. I'm going to be hopefully building myself a Zone Mortalis board from Foam Core, and or alternatives, might buy one of the not Zone Mortalis boards that are available out there, much like the one the XLC do. Although I've entered in their competition, and if I win the painting competition, which isn't likely, I could win myself a copy for free. So, I mean, there is that. And that would be really damn awesome, wouldn't it? But there we go. I mean, that's not necessarily a given. It's definitely not a given. There is a lot of good competition in that painting competition. And I put forward my plasma gun guys, and I super enjoyed doing them. But I don't think they're good enough. So yeah, there's content coming up. It's going to be a wide variety of bits and bobs. Hopefully a little something for everyone. And yeah, I'm excited to share it with you, and I'm excited to move into the new house and have this dedicated hobby space. I've also got other plans, hobby related plans, which I am hoping to talk about in about a week's time. I reckon maybe next Saturday's video, or some kind of midweek video, because they're not yet finalized, but I've been doing a lot of research, and I've been putting a lot of effort, a lot of time this summer into trying to plan this particular avenue of me enjoying the hobby, and it's something that I'd like to start up soon. So you'll probably hear about it in a week or so, and I'll hopefully have something shiny to show you then as well. Yeah, so there you go, cracking stuff. FX Audio says thanks for the help. Hopefully you'll be able to play it. Well, yes, of course. Now, I mean, if you've got models already that fill the roles, that's a really good place to start. There'll be some stuff on Forge World once you have a little gander on there that will probably make you want to pick up some more Heresy specific units. And of course, if you want to start a Legion, there's no better place to start than Prospero or Calth. Arguably, Calth is a better place to start if you don't mind what armor type you're going for, or you don't want Custodes. Of the two kits, I actually preferred Prospero. I liked the additional close combat weapons it comes with. I love the Mark III stuff for these Iron Hands. And the Tartarus Terminators, in my opinion, are much better. Hello, M3 Miniatures. Morning. Oh, I suppose you're not in the UK because it's 2 o'clock here, but I'll take a good morning any time of the day. Hope all is well with you. But yeah, like I was saying, you should be fine with your 7th Ed army to play most of the time, as long as you use the Horus Heresy rules. People aren't too fussy. I love the Horus Heresy miniatures, and so I'm happy to pour myself into those. Yeah, speaking of which, actually, there's a trip up to Warhammer World. I'll do that now. Oh, don't apologise for being in the USA. It's okay. That time differences happen. It's nice to hear from you, and nice that you can join us, even though we're so far apart in time. It's quite crazy, really, isn't it? Oh, I'm glad you're happy that you could join us, M3 Miniatures. Nice to see you. So yeah, there's a big event coming up, actually, on the 16th and 17th of September. If you are in the UK, and if you are local to Warhammer World, or even if you're not, there is going to be a bunch of Warhammer YouTubers and podcasters alike who will be making the trip up for a special day of gaming and chit chat and all sorts of jazz. There's a lot going on those 2 days in terms of already pre-planned events. Like, there are some big Heresy games, there are some 40k games going on, there's some Age of Sigmar being played. I think on the Saturday there's gonna be a 40k. I want to say like a free-for-all King of the Ring style 30 power level thing going on. But there's loads of stuff going on, and if you want to see me and a bunch of other YouTubers, obviously Harry will be there as well. There's going to be Sam from the Emperor's Path. There's going to be James from Tabletop War James. You've got the guys from a couple of podcasts. I believe on the list is David Brains from the 30k channel, which is like a really nice battle report channel. Other ones, Blackjack Legacy is going to be there. You've got the guys from West Berkshire Gaming. You've got, oh God, the list is very long. This is just off the top of my head. I think Craig from Kablams will be there, perhaps, if his little one is not, if his little one is, if he's able to. Okay, the Admiral. Okay, Mike, I'll get to your question in a minute. So Finch, Prospero was amazing for his Death Guard army. He bought 2 powered scythe kits and made the Tartarus into Death Shroud. I would have done the same. They look similar, so I mean and Death Shroud are awesome. Question is, have you got 7? And are they always, what is it, 49 paces from Mortarion or something? I don't know, like, there's some good stuff in Flight of the Eisenstein that makes me want to have some Death Guard. But Mike from Crew Orange Silicis has some beautiful Death Guard, which I recommend checking out, and hopefully you'll see them on the channel at some point in some games. M3 Miniatures says it's a little off topic, but am I doing models and dice? I have other plans for that at the moment. I am hoping to get back to that now. Once I'm back at uni, I'm going to have more time. It sounds weird, but I'll have like a whole dedicated hobby time instead of like just picking up as and when. And I have specific ideas for that channel. It's not immediate, but it is ominous at some point. So there's that. Just a quick question. Now, the Admiral 83, who is a bit of a ledge, he says, I have a question about 30k. Why is it that Lorgar can't punch a Dreadnought without hurting himself? That question it's a toughie. I think the simple answer being that Lorgar is a pussy. He has as much strength as a damp tea towel, and going up against a Dreadnought was just too much for him. He is normally one to delegate to his lackeys, and without said lackeys, he was forced to fend for himself, and it just went south. Yeah, okay. Strength 8 again, not always that fantastic Yeah, you know, never mind. Lorgar's good, okay? Don't be mean to him. uh, he's a nice guy. He's not. Actually, he's a dick. Um, but it was a nice model. It was my first ever Forge World model as well, actually, Lorgar, and what a stunner. He doesn't have that action pose of most of the newer Primarchs, but he's not an action Primarch. He is a broody, not broody, brooding. I've got to get that right because he's definitely not broody, but he is brooding, and he's ominous look. He looks very sort of like he's gonna do something, just not right now. Finch says the one thing I don't understand how the Death Shroud are the elite of the elite. No one ever knows their name or voice, and they always shadow Mortarion, and yet you can have 20 of them in a list. Yeah, this harkens. This is actually a really good point because it'll allow me to illustrate again that need for narrative play in the Horus Heresy. So yes, you could run 20. It's not fluffy, and if you're running, you should be running 70. You should be running 7, and that should be it. It should be 7 Death Shroud. Now, if you're playing against anyone who's sort of familiar with the Horus Heresy, has read the books and enjoys the fluff, which is most players, as far as I know, they'll play 7 Death Shroud or less, maybe 5, and they'll have them as a bodyguard unit for Mortarion, and it won't be played any other way, purely because that's what fits the narrative so well. You're less likely to run into someone who plays 20 of them, and I think that really does. Yes, you have access to 20, and some people will bring them, but 9 times out of 10 you'll be facing up against someone who loves the story and the books and is as into the fluff as you have written down, so they'll be taking 7 Death Shroud. Mike from Kura Androcilicis, again, I only harken back to that because he is a Death Guard player who I frequently talk Heresy with. He is going for 7 Grave Wardens, 7 Death Shroud. He has every unit he is doing is done in a multiple of 7, so Tactical Marines are 14, Special Weapon Teams are 7, Heavy Weapon Teams are 7, Terminator Squads are 7, literally everything 7. And I love that. That's honestly so cool. He's also got Mortarion and Callus Typhon leading the bunch, and he likes to say count the 7 whenever he's around, so I think that's really cool. And like I said, everything he's doing multiples of 7, and I think that's the kind of Heresy player that is often out there, and if that dedication to the fluff, it doesn't go amiss. It's so fantastic. So the Admiral says awesome answer. Well, it comes from an awesome game, awesome in the sense that your freaking Mortis Dreadnought held up my Primarch for like fucking 6 combats. What an absolute banger. Tabletop War James, hello. Welcome to the stream. He says spot on, 7 is the number of Death Guard, 7 great companies. Finch says that's amazing, obviously in reference to Mike's Kura Androcilicis' dedication to the number 7. And the Admiral says, is that one for each of your armies, James? Hang on, that's not enough. Yep. If anyone knows Tabletop War James, he is a master of starting 101 projects. And Death Guard happened to be one of those projects. And Blood Angels as well, ironically, the 30k kind, if FX ODS is still watching or watches back. So if you want to get inspiration, have a later on, I'm sure he'll talk more about his Blood Angels on his channel. But them being his first true love, in the hobby, at least, I presume, they were bound to be done. But yeah, I think that Heresy really does lean towards those fun narrative style of lists and games, and that's why I love it so. Hence why my Iron Hands are going to be very breacher heavy, very stubborn, sort of immovable object sort of style, to fit their story. And I've got Gorgons, which is cool. Gorgons are awesome. Crap in the rules, but again, that's not what this game is about. It is about cool units, looks, and narrative wise. I'd love them to do some rules for the Morlocks, which are the veterans that go with Ferrus Manus. They're like his bodyguard. So maybe in the future we'll see some additional units or things like this. But if they create a unit of Morlocks, I would be incredibly happy. Tabletop War James is painting them right now. Oh, painting the Blood Angels. Exciting. I saw them all built and ready to be primed. I didn't know they were painting or being painted. So that's very cool. And I'll be seeing some of them, I think, in few weeks. No, less than that. 2 weeks time. Holy crap, 2 weeks time. Okay, yep, I gotta get my painting art in gear, finish off these breaches. Because Tabletop War James and I got a game going on, some Centurion style Horus Heresy, whilst we're up in Warhammer World doing that event I spoke about a little bit earlier on. Spots would ask what's happening now. Just taking general comments and questions to do with the Heresy, same as before, and having that general chit chat. Like I said, it's not just a Q&A, it's about stirring up debate, talking about the things we love about this game that is so fantastic. Finch, when he plays his Death Guard, he just speaks in a Nurgle voice the entire time. Or in other words, a very gargly and gross sounding voice. You kind of got to purposely get a cold before every time you play Death Guard. That's what I've heard. If you turn up and you don't have a cold, that's cheating, and your opponent gets preferred enemy against you. No, those are the rules for using unpainted miniatures. Or so I've been told. Yeah, Death Guard are really cool, actually. Again, I didn't like them until I read Flight of the Eisenstein. I think once you read a book that's based around that legion, you just grow to love them. That being said, I still hate the Emperor's Children. Too many tentacles, too much going on, phallically speaking, to make them a legion that I take seriously. And also, I don't like the whole pretty boy. You know, you've got to win the pretty way. Screw that. You've got to win the efficient way. Because if you try and win looking good, there's just another opportunity for you to lose. You have a cold right now, so that's perfect. Good, yeah. Finch will be tearing up the gaming scene with his Nurgleites and also his Death Guard. Wow, yeah. So some cool stuff on the horizon for the Horus Heresy in terms of this channel. Oh, just listened to the audiobook of that, and it was very good. Garrow is a badass. So, yep, talking about Flight of the Eisenstein again. Super duper awesome. The Flight of the Eisenstein is a cracker of a book. I got through it in 2 days because I read mine. Because what I do is I just buy second-hand books off eBay or from the local store in Gosport. Again, I was so lucky that they've got like the first 8 to 10 books, all second-hand, all reduced price. So I was going in. I think I bought 4 at a time in preparation for moving back up to uni. But yeah, Flight of the Eisenstein, cracker of a book. I'm currently working my way through Descent of Angels, which is the Dark Angels sort of prelude one, where they talk about what it was like on Caliban before the First Legion arrived, and how the Lion rose to fame, and some of his compatriots. So very exciting book. I read through 250 pages in a day. I got so excited. That was the other day, and I've been busy lately, so I'll probably be reading that at some point soon. God, yeah, no, it's a cracker. It's an absolute cracker of a book. Most of them are, to be fair. Like I said, the first 2/3 of Fulgrim was a bit of a struggle, but I got there in the end. And I've heard that Battle for the Abyss, which is the next book I'll be reading, as I've already read 7, which is book 8 in the series. I've heard that's quite a struggle, but I'll persevere. I'll get through them. Deliverance Lost was pretty good, although they rushed the last little section, I found anyway. But there you go. So, yep, the books are the best place to start with this game, I think. Finch has said, I just love the overall character of Typhon and Mortarion. Yep, I think Mortarion has that really dark and ominous feel to him that I think really separates him from his brothers. I love that kind of hood. The hood. It's the hood. It suits him so well that he is cloaked in this aura of ominous, I suppose, if that's even a thing. I don't wholly know. But God, yeah, it's a cracker. He's a cracker. And that book is so good. Flight of the Eisenstein. So read the first 5 books if you haven't, and if you want to get into Heresy, listen to the audiobooks or read the books. The first 5 in the series. So that's Horus Rising, False Gods, Galaxy in Flames, Flight of the Eisenstein, and Fulgrim. They all very interconnected, and there are some beautiful stories in there, leading you through the atrocity of Istvan 3, as it's referred to as, and also the drop site massacre at Istvan 5. Finch just said he's painted up Typhon last week, and now I really want to get painting and finish my army. Yep, that's what happens. You paint a character. Well, that's what I find. Once I get round to doing this guy, I'm super excited about with his the story I'm writing for him. I reckon that'll really spur me on to get everything else done. Though the Iron Hands, they don't take long to paint, luckily. Well, I presume when you say finish up your army, you mean finish up what you've got, because an army's never really finished in the Horus Heresy. There's always more to buy. What else do you have to your collection, Finch, if you don't mind me asking? Like I say, this is a two-way chit-chat, so I can ask you questions and you have to answer. No, you can answer them if you wish. I'm interested to know what you've got. Obviously, you've got Typhon. I would guess Mortarion, and obviously you said you've got your Death Shroud and the stuff from Prospero, but are there any other things in the Death Guard that you've got, like the Grave Wardens, for example, who are pretty cool, but they're not quite as potent as the Death Shroud, I don't think. M3 Miniature says I just buy the boxes and put them on the table. Skip the assembly and painting. Put the okay, I mean that's a new one. I've not heard that before. Assembly and painting. I mean that's kind of a big part, but I guess if your opponent's alright with it. So Finch said he's got Typhon and the Prospero box. A brilliant place to start. And those miniatures are awesome. So, and you'll be able to play Centurion games right out of the box. Well, less so with Prospero, but if you pick up the old Calth, I assumed you were joking, M3 Miniatures, it's alright. But if you pick up the Calth box, and even if you sold all the Mark III stuff, then you've got your Cataphracti, and you've got your character models, and you've got your Contemptor, that's the one. Beautiful, they're just beautiful. Lovely stuff to work with. Like I say, this Contemptor is the Calth one, although I've chopped him around a little bit and I've magnetised the weapon options for this arm. This arm's going to stay the same. He's always having a chainsword on that, a chain fist on that arm. But what I might do is take a second close combat weapon here, for example. I want to keep those options open, and it works well with the Iron Hand specific one I've got behind me, which is totally magnetised both sides, so he can be a Mortis or a chain fist close combat weapon, whatever it might be. M3 Miniatures asks, where do we buy our 30k stuff? Now that's a really good question, because obviously that's not come up yet, and it allows me to answer that as part of this, which is it's fantastic. Shablam. So where do I buy my 30k stuff? I buy my 30k stuff from numerous places. I bought... The best place to start is with those two big box sets they did with Betrayal at Calth and Burning of Prospero, which you can buy from Games Workshop, or you can buy from your friendly local, you can buy from your online stores. I bought Calth from Triple Helix War Games, which do 25% off, which is nuts. I bought Prospero from my friendly local in Gosport, and that was 10% off, just a bit over actually. That was 20% off, or 15 to 20%, which was fantastic. So you've got options with those ones, and then all the other stuff comes from Forge World, so that's all your specific units, all your resin upgrades, gates and stuff like that. So they don't come on sprues, they come on gates that look a bit like this. Sorry, they have a bit like that. Yeah, so there's all sorts of cool stuff going on in terms of where you can buy it. You've got options for the core set, and then you buy all your other stuff from Forge World, which is just a beautiful place to buy things from. And if you haven't been window shopping on Forge World, I highly recommend you go after this stream, because there's so much stuff on there and it's making me want to buy stuff all the time. I've actually got a very strict shopping list. I like a very, very strict shopping list for when I'm up there next in 2 weeks' time. Mainly because of my lack of funding, but also because if you don't have a strict shopping list, you'll just buy everything. The Horus Heresy stuff is so beautiful. So that's where you can buy it from. Finch says he has a small army. I'm yet to expand them because I haven't had them for all that long and have yet to really play a game. Okay, well if you start off with what you got in Prospero and pick up, I don't know, like a Contemptor off eBay. Sorry, I get distracted by the chat. The Contemptor for there, and you've got your Prospero Marines. That's a really great place to start. You'll be able to play Centurion games. So if you Google Centurion, Horus Heresy Centurion games, you'll find there's a bunch of stuff in there. That's really, really good for small games. Tabletop War James is the next comment. So he has said, also, from what I said before, I'm sticking with the Blood Angels and Iron Hands. I'm very looking forward to the games at Warhammer World. Me too! Facing off against your Blood Angels will be very fun. I'm going to bring all of them, well, both my legions up, because why not? Beautiful stuff. Word Bearers are coming up for for the big Heresy game. I think I've got a big one on the Saturday afternoon, where it will be word bearers versus 2 loyalists, which would be cool. So it'll be me and another word bearers player bringing what we have, which for me will just be a shitload of infantry. And I'm taking up my Iron Hands specifically to play Tabletop Wargames and his Blood Angels, and probably keep them around for games of Harry as well, because I'm going up a couple of days early. So we'll probably have a couple of games in at some point. Tabletop Wargames also says, did you see that PayPal are letting you buy Forge World on Pay Monthly? I did. It's funny actually, because I spoke to Mike from Kuranji Silicis about this, which tickled me. Because we were joking sort of about doing a Partworks Warlord Titan. So, you know, you get a magazine and in 24 books you've collected a Warlord Titan or something. And it was stuff like that we just chuckled about, this sort of pay monthly thing. Would I do that? Yes, I would if I had a job. I'm not. I don't trust myself. With my student loan, as soon as it arrives, it's going to be spent. And I cannot do that, so weekly budgeting and a pay monthly system would be bad for me and my personal finances, although it would be fantastic for the amount of resin I would have. It's something I would do if I did have the money. M3 Miniatures says, I just need to read up on it. You don't understand the 30k world? Well, that's a really decent place to be in. Not understanding it is totally alright, because there are YouTube channels and podcasts, and most importantly the Horus Heresy novel series can guide you through all of that. So if you've got an interest roughly, if you like the look of the models, very easy to get you started on that. I am obviously doing this series, What is the Horus Heresy? Included in it, obviously there's the first video that does an introduction. I think I've spoken a couple of other times about things as well in the past, and looking forward we'll be doing things like this hopefully once a month, and also things where we will look at specific legions, specific units. Compulsory troop choices is a video I've got coming up hopefully next week, because I think that looking at the compulsory troop choice options is very important, and it's a really important place to start in your army, and hopefully there'll be an instructional video there for you. But failing that, grab yourself some of the Horus Heresy books. Sorry, I don't know why I turned around, you can't even see them, they're on the floor. Grab yourself some Horus Heresy novels and just start reading with Horus Rising, and all will become very clear. It's absolutely stunning. Finch just says, basically Horus Heresy is Erebus is a dick. 90% of the Horus Heresy is Erebus being a dick. I actually don't like him, which is why I haven't got him for my word bearers yet. He'll be the last word bearer specific model I buy. Oh, excuse me. Look at that. Excuse me. Sorry, yeah, the Erebus is the last one I'll buy, no doubt. And the other stuff I want to get is Zardu Layak and stuff like that before that, because the word bearers, most of their models are pretty cool. I think Erebus is a knob, and I didn't like the Erebus model that much. So when I went out and bought Corphoron, I just bought him alone on eBay, because that was the easiest way for me to get the model I wanted. And Corphoron is kind of the mainstay of my word bearer lists. Tabletop Wargames, hopefully he'll be picking up a Fire Raptor, a Xiphon, and some jet bikes. That would be absolutely lovely, because those are all units you don't often see. Well, certainly the jet bikes, I say don't often see them. To me, I don't fancy them. I'd rather have Outriders. Oh, some problems. Okay, sorry about that. I think the stream just cut out for a moment. A dodgy internet connection. Where was I? Yes, I was talking about the jet bikes. They're not my aesthetic. I'm hoping to get some Outriders for a future project. Oh, there's a shocker. Because I'm not so keen on the penis shape of the scimitars. I can't put it any other way. I mean, they're pretty cool. Hopefully the stream is working okay now. It cut out briefly, as I expected it might at some point. M3 Miniatures has said, I have your other ones bookmarked, just need the time to watch it. Oh, fantastic. I'm glad to hear that, I suppose. There'll be more coming. Like I said, it's going to probably end up being weekly. And yeah, there you go. I think it'll be pretty weekly. So, Finch, the worst thing about Erebus is he's one of the best HQs for word bearers. He is, of sorts. For me, he's a tad overpriced. Don't get me wrong, he's got some amazing buffs. But 185 points, I think he is. Oh, we've got him right here. I think he's 185. But he can still be insta-killed. He's not an Eternal Warrior, and that's a buttload of points, considering that is the case. Sorry, I'm just having a quick gander for Erebus. Personally, I think Zardu Lyax... Oh, he's 195 points. Jesus Christ. Like, yeah, he's got some really good stuff, and you can, do some cheeky stuff with the psychic powers. He's got Burning Law, which is great. But yeah, he's a very decent character to have, but he's quite expensive. I like Holbeloth. He's a really points efficient character. He's 165 mastercrafted power fist with a specialized weapon, so he's getting a buttload of attacks. He can give you +1 weapon skill. Weapon skill 5 to any unit that doesn't already have it on the table once per game in the combat phase. I think that's amazing. I take Corphoron, who is the biggest waste of 155 points you'll ever meet, but I love his model and I think he looks cool and no one else takes him. So I guaranteed that not many people have faced against him. Zardu Lyax, a beast for 175 points with his extra summoning abilities, blah blah blah. It's pretty decent. FX asked what happened to the live stream. Yeah, sorry, like I said. Unfortunately, bad things happened. So, M3 Miniatures asked, I like this Salamander's Legion support cadre. Since he can't post links in this, is that a starter army? So what I'm going to do is just double check what you mean by that, by going into Forge World and having a gander. If it's what I think it is, then that is certainly a good place to start. Legion support cadre on Forge World. Everyone loves Forge World. Let's see. Okay, that's a place to start, but that isn't the place I would start. So what you have there from those miniatures, and they look stunning, don't get me wrong, is a small selection of Legion-specific miniatures. So in there you get your Special Contemptor, which looks absolutely stunning. Then you have then you've got your Fire Drakes, which are the Terminators, and they are intensely good. I think so anyway. They're 3-up Invuln Thunderhammer Storm Shield Terminators in Cataphracti, but they got 2 wounds. They got a beefy Invuln save, and you can make this sick Praetor who suits them so well. You give him the Drake Shield. It makes this the shield that gives him +1 Invuln to make him a 3-up with Cataphracti armor. Then you chuck in a cloak that makes him an Eternal Warrior, and you've got this really damn beefy Praetor. So I'd recommend having a look at that. So yes, the support cadre. To surmise the support cadre, buy it. Just buy that, but also buy Betrayal at Kauth or Burning of Prospero. I think the better one for that would be your Betrayal at Kauth. So fork out for the Betrayal at Kauth. Maybe get the upgrades. If you're going to make a Forge World order anyway, get it over 250 quid. Buy the Betrayal at Kauth that comes with all the upgrade sprues. Then buy your support cadre, and that is literally the best place to start. Honestly, the models are beautiful. So if you go on to Forge World and you look at the Salamander stuff, it should say other things people have bought. It might be in there. Okay, here we go. The exact words. So I'll type it out for you as well, just so it doesn't get lost in translation. Because again, links are a tricky one. You want to get what was it? It's the task force, Salamander's task force. So you want the Salamander's task. Sorry, I've just got to type this out. Plus support cadre. Okay, here we go. Sorry. Salamander's task force and support cadre for you, M3 Miniatures, is probably the best place to start if you wanted to collect a Legion. It's a big financial outlay to begin with, don't get me wrong, but that'll go very far. You'll have all the upgrade sprues, you'll have basically everything you need to be playing the game. Straight out of the bat, you've got all the special units, you've got characters you can make up who look pretty. It's just a really good place to be. So FX Odious asked if there were any specific stuff with Blood Angels. There aren't yet. There will be in Book 8, though it's rumoured that Book 8 won't be released until 2019, from what I've heard, with this new red book coming out soon for the rules, 7th Head rules, or the Horus Heresy rules. Yeah, there's not going to be a book 8 until 2019, which will be book 8 Angelus, and I will be getting that for the Dark Angels. Tabletop War James, quick plug. I've got a vid going up later on the new Blood Angels. Not posted a video for a month due to moving, and now I'm done. Let's talk more Heresy. Yes. So, go and check out Tabletop War James. I think I mentioned him earlier anyway. But if you haven't already checked him out, go check him out. He's obviously got this video going up on Blood Angels. I know that's going to suit FX ODS very nicely. So have a gander. And he's a lovely chap as well. Right. Let's catch up with these comments. Finch just said there aren't characters for the Blood Angels yet, so that's much what I've said. FX ODS says, can you take any Sanguinary Guard? So no, you can't. Certainly not if you're going by the rules. I mean, if you're playing with a friend and they don't mind, whatever, do what you like. It's your game. But they are only available in 40k for now because the Horus Heresy has specific Heresy rules you use for building lists, and they're not in there. Okay, M3M miniatures. Okay, that makes sense. Didn't see the task force. Thanks. No worries. I hope it gets you into 30k stuff. Off topic, but have I painted Lord of the Rings or Hobbit models from Games Workshop? I painted the Fellowship for a Frostgrave Warband, but that's all I've done so far. I know this is a Horus Heresy stream, but I thought I'd answer that question as we're nearing the end of the stream anyway. Just briefly, yes, I have. I've painted the Fellowship for Frostgrave. I've got them in a box on the side, and they are, yeah, I basically just love the models. I watched the original trilogy. I haven't watched the Hobbit yet. I watched the original trilogy all in a day, extended edition, fell in love with it, and that's how that happened. Oh yeah, no, you asked if this is 30k stuff only. It's okay. I don't mind short questions like that. It's more for the bigger topic that 30k would be. So Tabletop War James is off. See you in a few weeks. Yes, you will see me in a few weeks. Better bring those Blood Angels ready to face off against some hammer wielding, shield toting, part man, part machine, iron hand strike force thing with Praetor in tow, or maybe even someone else who I think will probably suit Centurion quite nicely. So we'll see. But there you go. I'll see you in a couple of weeks, James. M3 Miniatures just says, "Bye, War James. Love the channel name." I think everyone does. I think it's pretty amazing. I'm going to be calling it a day in 2 minutes, a minute, 2 minutes, either way. Partly because I haven't eaten yet and I'm starving, and also partly because I need to be getting on with some painting for this excursion in a couple of weeks. I've got a game on Monday night where I'm going to be taking word bearers. I'll try and remember to take some pictures and do a little, like, I don't know, probably talk about games in the Horus Heresy for the next What is the Horus Heresy video, or one of the next ones. As I've already mentioned, I want to do one on compulsory troop choices. But there you go. So thanks ever so much for watching, guys. A little bit of a new shiny thing for you here, and I hope you're ready for this. Oh, what? So, okay, if you want to catch up, check out down here. I've got, obviously, Facebook, Instagram, and... Oh, hang on a second. I'll answer your question. Sorry, I didn't see that. Is all the 30k stuff resin? It looks like it. Yes, for the most part. All the specific stuff, resin. Betrayal at Calth and Burning of Prospero are plastic. And that's the way it will remain, I believe, for the foreseeable future, given that the Horus Heresy is a slightly smaller game and they cannot afford to injection mold all those models, basically. Shiny, yeah, very. So if you have not already, follow me on Facebook /Tabletop Banter. You can follow me on Instagram @Tabletop Banter, all one word, no caps. And same for Twitter, slightly less active on that, but I wanted 3 of the things here. So there you go. Of course, if you've enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe. It always helps. We've gone over 600 now, which is amazing, given the fact that I've been so inactive, and I apologise profusely. Hopefully that will change shortly with the dedicated hobby space and so forth. So thanks ever so much for watching, guys. Hopefully we'll see you in the next one. And that's it for now. So I'll see you in the next one, guys. Bye for now.